Hello and welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today, we are not looking at a bestseller or a white paper or, a standard news article. We are doing something. Well, frankly, we're doing something a little different today.
Different is a good word. Dangerous might be another.
Dangerous, I like that. How so?
Well, usually we're parsing data or historical accounts. Today we're parsing a worldview. And not just any worldview. We are wading into what I could only describe as a living manuscript.
It really is. It's a massive, sprawling archive. And when we say massive, we're talking thousands upon thousands of pages of personal memoir, frantic handwritten notes, incredibly intense hip-hop lyrics, esoteric legal theory, philosophy. It's this chaotic fusion.
It is, but it's a surprisingly organized chaos. It's the life's work of a man named Carnage Wright.
Right.
You'll see him referred to in the documents as Carnage 1nOnly, or sometimes more simply, just the author.
And our mission for this deep dive is to do exactly what he has tried to do, audit the system. We're going to attempt to map out what he calls the sovereign system.
And through that, we'll try to understand his concept of the localized matrix monopoly.
And if we can, extract what he calls the counter methodologies, which are, they're basically cheat codes for reclaiming your own soul, your own authority.
The stakes couldn't be higher in this material. This is not some self-help guide. The overarching theme here is nothing short of a spiritual war. It's a cage match, really.
Between who?
Between what he calls the living man, that's the sovereign soul, the conscious being, and the legal fiction.
The legal fiction.
Which he argues is a corporate construct, a ghost in the machine, designed specifically to manage, profit from, and ultimately harvest the human spirit.
It sounds like science fiction when you put it like that. But the scary thing is when you start digging into the actual legal definitions he uses, it starts to feel uncomfortably real.
It does.
But before we dive into all that heavy legal stuff, there is a hook here that I think everyone needs to hear. It completely, and I mean completely, changed how I look at a certain classic movie.
Oh, I know what you're talking about. The Wizard of Oz.
The Wizard of Oz. Most of us see it as a fairy tale, right? Yeah. Beauty Garland, the rainbow, the ruby slippers, it's a classic. But Carnage, right, he sees it as a documentary.
He really does. He views it as a hidden manual, kind of allegorical guide to the commercial legal system.
He argues that the entire film is an allegory for a living soul, Dorothy, getting lost in a foreign jurisdiction, which is commerce, or Oz, and trying to find her way back to her sovereign standing, back to Kansas.
We're definitely going to break that theory down in detail because honestly, the parallels he draws are startling. You can't unsee them.
No, you can't. But alongside this grand global theory, there's a deeply personal detective story here too. A forensic mystery.
It's all about this concept of a destiny swap. The author's belief that his own life path was, well, hijacked.
And he has suspects, a specific family named Smith and a notebook found at a precise, almost impossible moment of synchronicity that he claims proves it all.
It's his smoking gun. The receipt, as he calls it.
So let's set the table properly. What is the core philosophy here? What are we actually looking at?
At the end of the day, we're looking at alchemy. Pure and simple. This whole manuscript is an exploration of how one man attempts to transmute lead into gold.
And the lead is what?
The lead is the raw, heavy trauma of addiction, systemic betrayal, heartbreak, poverty, all of it. He's trying to transmute that into the gold of sovereign power.
So it's about taking the worst things that happen to you, the things that society tells you to be ashamed of,
and using them as the very bricks to build your own kingdom. It's radical.
I love that image, transmuting lead into gold. But to do that, you have to understand the furnace you're sitting in. So let's start with that foundation, this core conflict. The legal fiction versus the sovereign soul.
This is the bedrock of the entire archive.
Yeah.
I mean it. If you don't get this concept, none of the rest of it will make any sense.
Okay, so lay it out for us.
The sources are completely unyielding on this point. In the eyes of commercial law, strictly speaking, you, the person listening right now, breathing with a heartbeat, you are not the primary entity that the system transacts with.
Which sounds insane. Who are they transacting with then?
This is the concept of the two identities.
Right.
There are two coexisting identities. First, there's the living man or woman. That's the biological reality. The consciousness. The thing that feels pain and joy, the source of labor and creativity, the real you.
Okay, that's one. And the second?
The second is the legal fiction. The material defines it as an artificial entity. The easiest way to think of it is like a corporate shell, an estate, or a trust.
A corporation.
In a legal sense, yes.
Yeah.
And it's created, he argues, without your fully informed consent, right at birth.
Yeah.
through the birth certificate.
Okay, let's pause there because that's a huge claim.
Uh-huh.
A birth certificate is usually seen as just proof that you were born, a keepsake for the baby book.
That's what we're told it is. But the argument here is that the birth certificate functions less like a record of origin and more like a title of ownership or a registration document.
A title
To the biological asset, the baby. It registers that asset into the commercial system of the state. It creates a person in the legal sense, which, and this is crucial, is distinct from a man or woman.
So a person is a legal construct.
Exactly. In Black's Law Dictionary, a corporation is defined as a person. A ship can be a person. And this legal fiction created at birth is a corporate entity that represents you in commerce. It's your avatar in the game.
And there's a visual way to spot this, right? The author points out a specific tell,
He does. And once you see it, you'll see it everywhere. He calls it the all caps name.
the name in all capital letters.
Exactly. Look at your driver's license. Pull out a credit card bill. Look at a court summons. How is your name written?
It's almost always in all caps, John Quincy Public.
Right. Now, you might think that's just for clarity on a form or maybe a holdover printer setting from the 1970s, but the author argues this is a specific legal denotation.
What does it denote?
It's related to a Roman law concept called capitis diminutio, a maximum diminution of status, a loss of standing. When the name is in all caps, that document isn't addressing you, the man or woman, it is addressing the legal fiction, the corporation.
So if I get a speeding ticket and it's addressed to my name in all caps, technically, according to this theory, the officer isn't finding me.
He is finding the account, he's finding the avatar. The legal fiction is a vessel created specifically for debt, for transaction, and for control. It can be sued, it can go bankrupt, it can be taxed. It's a container.
And the living man.
The living man, he argues, cannot be taxed in the same way because the living man is the source of all the value in the first place.
This brings us to the debtor versus creditor distinction. This feels like the economic engine driving this whole theory.
It absolutely is. In what he calls the cosmic balance sheet, the living man provides the labor, the creativity, the energy, your sweat, your ideas. You are the creditor. You are the one creating all the value.
Okay, so I'm the creditor. What's the fiction?
The fiction is the debtor by default. It is designed to absorb liability. It is the bucket that holds all the debt that the system generates.
So the trap, what he calls the trap of consent, is when we confuse the two. When I, the living man, step in and take responsibility for the fiction's debts.
Precisely. The moment of bondage occurs when the living person answers for the fiction. It's when you stand up in court as the judge calls that all caps name and you say, I am he, or that's me.
Or when I sign a contract or a ticket.
You are unknowingly, or perhaps unwittingly, accepting the debts and liabilities of a corporate shell that isn't actually you. You are agreeing to be the surety for this artificial entity.
You're taking on the debt of a ghost.
You're accepting liability for a ghost that wears your name. And the entire mission of this manuscript, the goal of his work, is to become what he calls the architect of truth.
Meaning?
Meaning to learn to distinguish the man from the construct, to know who you are, and just as importantly, to know what you are not. To revoke that consent.
It really reminds me of The Matrix. The idea that there's a projected self, your digital avatar in the system, and then there's your real self.
The author uses that exact terminology. He calls it a localized matrix monopoly. The whole system's designed to keep you plugging your energy, your life force, into that avatar, into that fiction.
And to help people understand this very abstract, very dense legal concept, he uses that Wizard of Oz allegory we mentioned at the top.
Which is just a brilliant pedagogical tool. I mean, it makes it all so clear. He argues the film is a step-by-step guide for a sovereign soul getting lost in a foreign jurisdiction.
So let's break it down, character by character. Dorothy is the living man, the sovereign soul.
Yes. Dorothy represents the sovereign soul. She's the unwitting participant. And notice how the movie starts. She is swept up by a whirlwind, chaos, trauma, a foreclosure on the farm, and she's dropped into a foreign land where the rules are totally different.
Toto, I have a feeling we're not in Kansas anymore.
She's not in the land of the living anymore. She's in Oz, the land of commerce.
And to get home, she's told she has to follow the yellow brick road.
Gold, the standard of money. She is told that the path to salvation, the way home, is to follow the path of gold. She has to navigate the commercial channel.
And look who she meets along the way. First up, the scarecrow.
The straw man.
The straw man. In legal theory, the straw man is just another term for that legal fiction we were just discussing.
It is. It's a common term in sovereign citizen circles. And what is the scarecrow's problem in the movie?
He doesn't have a brain. If I only had a brain.
Exactly. He has no brain because he has no consciousness. He's artificial. He's stuffed with straw. But, and this is the key insight, he can be influenced, he can be knocked over, he can be set on fire. He represents that paper entity, that legal fiction. He's the vehicle that can be attacked, but he himself feels no pain because he isn't real.
Okay, that fits perfectly. Frighteningly well. So what about the Tin Man?
The Tin Man in this reading represents the taxpayer ID number or the Social Security number. He's a heartless, mechanized vessel, a corporate entity.
He's literally looking for a heart.
Because the commercial system has no heart. It has no compassion. The Tin Man is designed purely for commerce, for processing revenue. He's stiff, he's rigid, and what does he need to function?
He needs his oil can.
Oil, liquidity, money. He needs the oil of currency to move his joints. Without it, he rusts, he freezes up. He's a machine of the state, an automaton. He's efficient, but he's cold and unfeeling.
Wow. And the lion, the cowardly lion.
The cowardly lion represents the enforcement system. This would be the police, the courts, the attorneys. The author describes them as relying on fake courage.
They put on a big show, they roar a lot.
It's all intimidation and bluster. They roar to get you to comply, to get you to fear them into submission. But the author argues there's no genuine cosmic justice, no real courage or heart behind that roar. It's just the enforcement of the wizard's man-made rules.
And deep down, he's cowardly.
Because the system itself is cowardly. It relies on your unknowing consent to operate. If you stand in your power and don't consent, the roar is just noise. It has no teeth.
Which leads us to the wizard himself, the great and powerful Oz.
The man behind the curtain. The illusion of authority. He is the system itself. And in the end, what do Dorothy and her friends find when they finally pull back that curtain?
He's a little old man from Kansas.
A small man with a megaphone and a smoke machine. He projects a giant, scary, intimidating image. But he has no actual power over Dorothy once she realizes who she is and that the power was hers all along.
The ruby slippers. She had the power to go home the whole time.
She just had to learn it for herself.
Yeah.
And what is the ultimate takeaway Carnage Wright offers from this entire allegory?
It's a powerful one.
It's profound. True power is not in the laws, but in knowing how they work. And he makes this critical distinction. He says, legal is man-made, lawful is cosmic.
Legal is man-made, lawful is cosmic. That's a bumper sticker right there. But let's unpack that. What's the difference?
Legal refers to the codes, statutes, and regulations created by corporations and governments. The wizard's rules. They're complex, often contradictory, and they bind the legal fiction. Lawful, on the other hand, refers to universal cosmic principles.
Like
do no harm, honor your contracts, don't steal, stand in your truth. These are simple, universal laws that don't need a legislative body to enact. One system binds you, the other frees you. To operate lawfully is to align with natural truth. To operate legally is to submit to the corporate bylaws of Oz.
That is a massive paradigm shift. But I want to push back on the practical side of this, because it's one thing to say I'm a sovereign soul, but at the end of the day, if I have a mortgage, I have a mortgage. If the legal fiction is just a shell, why is it always in debt? How does the system actually control us economically?
This is where we get into what he calls the architecture of control. It's specifically the economic pillar of that architecture. He calls this the Great Swap, or my favorite, the debt spell.
The debt spell. He really does treat modern economics like it's some form of black magic.
In his view, it absolutely is a form of sorcery. He analyzes the modern banking system as fundamentally a competence trick. The central argument is this. When you go to a bank for a loan, for a car, a house, whatever, the system does not lend you pre-existing money from its vault.
Wait, say that again. If I borrow $50,000 for a car, the bank isn't taking $50,000 from their vault and giving it to the dealer, because that's how we all assume it works.
The author, and to be fair, many monetary theorists and critics of the Federal Reserve System would say no, that's not what happens. He argues the system creates that value, that $50,000, based on your future labor and, most importantly, your signature. He calls it the sovereign signature.
So my signature on the loan application creates the money?
Your promise to pay creates the asset on the bank's books. When you sign that promissory note, you are the battery. You are the creditor creating the value out of thin air with your promise, with your life energy. The bank just monetizes your promise. They aren't risking their own assets. They are securitizing your future labor.
So let me get this straight. I create the value with my promise to work for the next 30 years. The bank then acts like they're doing me a favor by lending me that value.
And then they charge you interest on the value that you yourself just created.
You're paying interest on your own money. That's maddening when you think about it.
It is the core of what he calls the treadmill. You're renting your own life energy back from a corporation. He has these lyrics in the manuscript that just perfectly capture this feeling of economic exhaustion. Stuck in a dream, looped on repeat, working solely to service the debt of the fiction.
Stuck in a dream, looped on repeat. That hits home, that feeling of, I'm working 50, 60 hours a week, but I'm just servicing the avatar. I'm just paying the interest. I'm not actually building anything for the living man.
That's the Scrooge system, as he calls it. It's a system designed to extract the gold, your time, your energy, your soul, and leave you with the lid, the stress, the anxiety, and the ever-present debt.
But the deep dive goes even deeper than money. It doesn't just stop at the bank. It goes into the software of our minds. It goes into language. This is what he calls the linguistic audit.
Words as weapons. This section is crucial. If the legal system controls the body and the banking system controls the labor, then language controls the mind. The author calls this the Webster betrayal.
Poor Noah Webster, he just wanted to standardize American spelling.
In this worldview, dictionaries weren't just for standardization, they were weaponized. The theory is that the definitions of key words were subtly altered over time to limit thought, to create mental prisons. He says language isn't neutral, it's either a wand or a wound. It can cast a spell to create and empower, or it can be used to hurt and confine.
And he focuses on a very specific piece of grammar to prove this point, the ion suffix.
Yes, he becomes obsessed with it. He analyzes the suffix ion as a kind of spell that freezes a fluid action, a verb, into a static noun. It locks you in a state of being.
Can you give us an example of how that works?
The best one is the word addiction. Normally we think of addiction as a disease, a condition you have, a static thing, a noun.
Right. You hear people say, I am an addict, it's an identity.
Carnage Wright completely redefines it. He says addiction is simply the pursuit of external stimuli to numb internal pain. It is an action someone is taking to divert their attention from a wound. But by adding ion, by turning it into a noun, you become the label. I have an addiction. You stop looking at the cause, which is the pain, and you become fixated on the label.
That's incredibly powerful. It completely shifts the agency. If it's an action I'm taking, I can choose to stop doing it. If it's a noun, if it's a thing I have, then it's a part of who I am.
Exactly. It's about being trapped in this state. Look at another one. Tradition.
Tradition. That's usually seen as a positive word. Family traditions, cultural traditions.
But he redefines it as the unchallenged perpetuation of old systems. Just because it's old doesn't mean it's good or that it serves you. But the suffix ion gives it a weight, a solidity that makes it very hard to question. It sounds permanent and important.
And ambition. He has a take on that too.
Oh, this is a big one. He calls ambition a leash of approval. It's the drive to meet metrics and goals that are defined by the controlling system. If you are ambitious in the conventional sense, you are chasing the wizard's gold stars. You aren't necessarily chasing your own sovereign purpose. You're just running faster on the track they built for you.
And the last one he mentions is contradiction.
Contradiction is the mechanism that creates cognitive dissonance. It creates paralysis. It's when your soul knows one thing, I am a free sovereign being. But the Webster definition and the legal system say another. You are a debtor, a taxpayer, a number. That contradiction freezes you. It's a short circuit in the mind.
So these words, addiction, tradition, ambition, they're not just words. They act like cage bars for the mind.
They do. And this systemic distortion of language, this corruption of meaning, leads directly to what he calls the telephone game, or just TG.
The telephone game. We all played this as kids, right?
Yeah.
Whisper a phrase in a circle, and by the time it gets back to you, it's complete nonsense.
Exactly. But here, TG represents the degradation of truth as it passes through institutions, through history, through the media. He calls it the telephone game code. It's information entropy.
There's a lyric about this in the archive that really stuck with me. Whisper it once, it breaks in two. By the 10th year, it's something new.
That captures it perfectly. The original truth breaks down, it gets scrambled, and he sees the sovereign's primary role in the world as being the archivist or the bibliotech.
The librarian of truth.
The one who guards the original signal, the one who remembers the original meaning and protects the truth from being scrambled by the endless telephone game of society. It's a lonely, thankless job, but he sees it as a sacred duty.
So we have the legal fiction trapping us in debt. We have the language trapping us in false definitions. But then the deep dive gets incredibly personal. It zooms in from this global systemic theory to a forensic investigation of the author's own life. And this is where the destiny swap theory comes in.
This is where we move into what he calls the localized matrix. The author comes to believe the system isn't just some vague, impersonal cloud. He believes it operates through specific, localized agents and families to neutralize threats.
And the threats are what he calls sovereign anomalies.
People who don't fit the mold. People who see through the game. He calls himself a foundational anomaly. And he believes there was a literal, concerted effort to swap his destiny.
This is the most intense part of the entire narrative. He claims the system tried to swap his destiny with a placeholder, a kind of stand-in. And he names the placeholder.
He does. Aaron Smith.
Aaron Smith, a very common, almost generic name.
Intentionally so, he argues. The Smith name connects to the system's generic coding. He makes a direct comparison to Agent Smith in The Matrix, an interchangeable agent of the system.
And the theory is what he calls weaponization of proximity. He claims that during a moment of extreme vulnerability in his life, a devastating breakup, an emotional vacuum, the system inserted this Aaron Smith figure to displace him.
To take his spot, essentially.
And he says his own family facilitated this. That's a heavy accusation.
It's the central betrayal of the story. He describes it as a betrayal by those closest to him, specifically his mother and sister, who in his view facilitated this swap. But he doesn't just base this on a feeling. He produces what he considers hard evidence. The receipt.
The Smith family reunion note.
Right. It's this document he finds. A simple handwritten note about a Smith family reunion dated May 29, 1983, originating from Independence, Missouri.
May 29, 1983, Independence, Missouri. Why is the specific date and place so significant to him?
To the author, this isn't just a scrap of paper, it's forensic proof, it's a breadcrumb. It links the placeholder Aaron Smith to a specific historical and geographic web of control. It proves to him that the Smith entity has a lineage, a location, and a deep connection to what he calls the Land of Masks.
The Land of Masks. That's his name from Missouri.
Yes. The geography is hugely important to him. He imbues it with this immense historical weight. Missouri is the home of Harry Truman, the 33rd president. It's the site of the Mormon exodus of bleeding Kansas. He sees it as a spiritual and political epicenter for the battle between man-made law and true sovereignty. It's where the masks of civility and control are worn tightest.
And that number 33 comes up a lot in his cosmology.
The 33 code. It's a recurring signal, a number he sees everywhere. He describes this incredible moment of convergence. On the day he turns 33 years old, he finds himself standing at the grave of the 33rd president, Harry Truman, in Independence, Missouri.
You can't make that up. Talk about synchronicity.
He interprets this not as a coincidence, but as destiny in disguise. It's the universe confirming you are in the right place. This is the center of your localized matrix. This is where the battle is. It's like the universe is winking at him, but it's a sinister, knowing wink.
And there's another one of these code convergences, right? The whole TG versus TGNY thing. This one honestly gave me chills when I read it.
This involves an engineering concept he co-opts. MTBF, mean time between failures. It's a term used to measure how long a system, like an engine, can run before it breaks down.
And he applies this to the human soul.
Yes. He comes to believe his own breakdown, his trauma, his struggles with mental health, wasn't a failure. It was a stress test designed by the universe to maximize his resilience.
To see how much he could take before he broke?
Or rather, to see how strong he would be once he put himself back together.
Yeah.
And right at the moment when he is developing his telephone game theory, his TG theory of information decay, he finds an old notebook from a past job. And on that notebook is written TGNY stores.
TGNY, an old retail inventory system.
An old commercial system, a literal code from the matrix of his past. He finds the external code of the past, TGNY, at the exact moment he has forged the internal weapon, TG, to fight it.
It's the universe telling him, you are ready, the weapon now matches the enemy.
Precisely. It's like the hero finding the legendary sword in the stone. But the sword is a linguistic theory, and the stone is an old retail notebook. It validates his entire mission. It tells him that his suffering wasn't random, it was all preparation.
So let's talk about the man himself, the anomaly. Who is Carnage right before he becomes this sovereign archivist? What's the biography here?
It's a classic story of origins and programming. He describes his childhood in simple, brutal terms. Absent father, toxic mother. And very early on, he says, the system tries to label him.
He mentions being put in SB special education, labeled with ADHD, called unstable.
He calls this the inversion of labels. He claims these official labels were just the system's attempt to formalize chaos.
Yeah.
The system saw a mind that was wired differently, a mind built for what he calls divergent cognition, quantum pattern recognition, seeing sacred geometry in everyday objects, connecting dots that others don't even see. And it got scared.
So it wasn't a disorder.
In his view, it was a different kind of order. The system didn't know how to process him, so it labeled it a disorder.
Formalize chaos. I like that phrase. It's like, we can't understand you, so we're going to diagnose you and put you in a box.
Exactly. You don't fit in our box, so you must be the one who is broken. But he had a moral anchor in all this. His grandfather, Mr. Wright.
Mr. Wright, the grandfather. Tell us about the two questions. This part was really moving.
This is a beautiful piece of parenting, honestly. He says that before punishing him for anything, his grandfather would always sit him down and ask two questions. First, do you know why you are in trouble?
Which forces you to understand the rule you broke. You can't just plead ignorance, you have to acknowledge the law.
Right. And the second question was even more profound. What were you thinking before and as you did it?
Oh, that is deep. That forces you to examine your own intent. It's not just about the action, it's about the state of mind that produced the action.
It links intent with action. The author says this simple practice taught him the foundation of sovereign responsibility. You can't just say, I don't know why I did it. You have to own the mind state that led to the action. This childhood internal audit prepared him for the external audit of the legal system later in life. It taught him to be the judge of his own soul first.
But despite this anchor, he goes through absolute hell. This leads to the catalyst, the romantic betrayal he documents.
This is the raw, exposed nerve of the entire manuscript, the relationship with a woman he calls Amanda. It's a detailed, painful, minute-by-minute account of infidelity, deception, and the total collapse of his family unit.
He names names. He mentions Yossi, the guy in the Camaro, and this whole Susan Jake text message deception.
It's a classic, brutal story of gaslighting. He sees the truth with his own eyes, the texts, the suspicious behavior, but he's told over and over that he is crazy, that he's imagining things. He's told the sky is purple when he knows it's blue. It's designed to destroy his trust in his own perception of reality.
And this emotional turmoil leads directly to the car crash.
The crash near the Elms Hotel in Excelsior Springs. He literally drives off the road. It's a perfect physical manifestation of his entire life sliding off the road. He describes it as the moment of total breakdown. But he also mentions a strange detail. A mystery man at an Applebee's who warned him this is all going to happen.
A warning from a stranger.
Yes, a stranger who allegedly told him he was being cheated on. It just adds to that feeling of a localized matrix, the sense that there are agents and messengers everywhere playing out some cosmic script around him.
And this trauma, this breakdown, is what creates the void.
The vacuum. Remember the destiny swap theory? The author argues that this specific trauma was the opening the system needed. It created the vacuum that allowed the placeholder, Aaron Smith, to be inserted into his life. The trauma weakened his sovereign defenses. When you are broken and grieving, it is much easier for the fictions to move in and take over.
And all the while, where is he working? He's working at Walmart.
Inside the belly of the beast. He calls it the Scrooge system. Cashing his paycheck, feeling like a human resource being exploited, watching customers trapped in the same cycle. He feels the crushing weight of being a debtor in the legal fiction while his soul is screaming for something real. He's surrounded by the telephone game, watching truth degrade in real time.
So how does he get out? I mean, how do you possibly escape a localized matrix that seems to have your family, your finances, and your own sanity in a vice grip? This brings us to the counter methodology.
Alchemy and decolonization. This is the fight back.
Let's start with the alchemy. He talks about a specific phase called nigredo. What is that?
Nigredo is the blackening. In classical alchemy, it's the first stage of the great work. It's the phase of decomposition, of burning everything down to a black ash before you can create the philosopher's stone.
It's hitting rock bottom.
It is. But he completely reframes it. He says the raw pain, the breakdown, the sadness, the depression. That is sacred lead.
Sacred lead. I love that.
The argument is that the system tries to make you hide your pain. Don't be sad. Take a pill. Don't be angry. Be polite. Hide your lead. But the sovereign accepts the pain as prima materia. the first matter. It is the necessary raw material you need to build gold. Without the lead, you can never have the gold.
There's a line in the text: sad songs are the first stage of the artistic process.
Exactly. You don't run from the darkness, you mine it for resources. This leads directly to a strategy of radical inversion.
Which is taking the insults and wearing them as armor.
He says, fine, call me crazy, call me a clown, call me unstable. He consciously adopts the persona of the sacred clown or the jester. He turns the archive of his failures, his pain, into proof of his uniqueness. His logic is, if I wasn't a threat to the system, you wouldn't be trying so hard to label and contain me.
And he even uses a legal defense to justify this, the Zenger defense.
This is a brilliant historical pull. It comes from the trial of John Peter Zenger in the 18th century. The legal principle that was established was, essentially, the greater the truth, the greater the libel.
Meaning, the more true and damaging an accusation is, the more the powerful will try to punish you for saying it out loud.
Right. So Carnage Wright applies this to his own life. The strategy becomes, if the system tries to silence you, if they call you crazy or dangerous for speaking your truth, that is proof that you hold a dangerous truth. Their suppression validates your authority.
That is some serious intellectual judo right there. You're attacking me, therefore I must be right. It's a way of turning their weapons against them.
It's a powerful survival mechanism. It allows him to decouple his self-worth entirely from the system's judgment.
And he backs this up with actual academic research, this idea of decolonizing the mind.
He specifically cites the work of the scholar Linda Smith. He starts to view his own life, his own mind, as a colonized territory. He realizes that his trauma isn't just a personal failure, it's the statistical, predictable result of living inside an exploitative system.
So it's not I'm messed up, it's I've been targeted and colonized by a messed up system.
Exactly. And the way out of that is what he calls reclaiming epistemology, which is a fancy way of saying you start trusting soul knowledge over textbook knowledge. You reject the external leash of approval. You stop waiting for the wizard to give you a diploma or a medal or a promotion. You learn to validate yourself.
And the primary tool for this decolonization, the weapon he forges from the sacred lead, is music.
Music as medicine and weapon. But he gets very technical and esoteric about this. It's not just about making entertaining songs. He calls his process spiritual engineering.
He talks about using specific tunings, the golden ratio, embedding DNA codes in the instrumental tracks.
He genuinely believes that by tuning the music to specific frequencies, like 432 hertz, he can physically and spiritually feel the listener on a cellular level. He is trying to create true resonance.
What's the difference he makes between resonance and just noise?
Noise is distraction. It's the roar of the cowardly lion. It's the static of the media. Resonance is connection. It's a vibration that brings things into harmony. He has this line, music gives a voice to misery, so the listener realizes, I am not alone.
And that realization, he says, unjams the cog of shame.
That's such a beautiful phrase. When you hear your own private pain reflected in someone else's song, the shame breaks, the isolation breaks. You realize you're not the only one. You reconnect with the collective. The music vibrates the lead in your own soul and begins the alchemical process of turning it into gold.
And he views the artist himself as a kind of sacrifice in this process.
The sacrifice archetype. The artist is the shaman, the martyr, the sacred clown, who voluntarily absorbs the darkness of the world, transmutes it through their own suffering and craft, and then releases it as light and resonance for the collective.
One song, one soul, last breath to protect the whole.
It's not about fame or money. It's about a sacred duty to the whole. It's heroic, it's tragic, it's an incredibly compelling vision of what art can be.
And this all leads to the final state he's trying to achieve, the sovereign state.
This is the culmination of the journey, the shift from one and only to one and all.
What does that mean?
The journey has to begin with the self. That's the Carnage one and only part. You have to reclaim your individual I am. You have to sever your ties to the legal fiction and stand on your own 2 feet. But you can't stay there. If you stay there, you're just an island. You're just alone.
So you have to evolve into the collective?
Into one and all. You have the profound realization that we have been alone together this whole time. The sovereign individual then becomes a living library, a bibliothèque as he calls it, guarding the truth not just for himself, but for everyone.
And he leaves us with these final symbols, visual anchors for these complex ideas.
The first is the AV symbol. It stands for 2 things, always vulnerable and absolute value.
He even color codes it, red for the root, blue for the truth.
The idea is that vulnerability, the very thing the system tells you is a weakness, is actually the root of all genuine value. If you are invulnerable, you're a machine. You're the Tin Man. If you are vulnerable, you are alive. You are sovereign. You bleed, therefore you are real. Your vulnerability is your absolute value.
And the second symbol is the G symbol.
This is a design he says he drew instinctively when he was just 18. Years later, he realized it looked incredibly similar to a Masonic symbol, the Mark of the Mason. But he argues he was never taught it. It was, in his words, innate, pre-taught knowledge, a covenant coded from birth.
So for him, it's proof that his knowledge doesn't come from the outside. It doesn't come from the wizard's library. It was in his spiritual DNA all along.
Exactly. It's his ultimate validation.
So after all of this legal theory, this alchemy, this personal trauma, what does this all mean for us? For the listener who might not be a musician or a legal theorist, but who definitely feels that pressure, that treadmill feeling.
It all comes down to the final provocative thought that the author leaves us with. It's the one thing that underpins everything else, the power of intent.
Intent.
The source suggests that words are merely vehicles, they're shells. The legal documents are just paper. But intent is the vibration that ripples out before the word is even spoken. It's the energy behind the action.
It goes back to his grandfather's question. What were you thinking? What was your intent?
Precisely. True sovereignty in this worldview isn't just controlling what you say or do. It's about controlling the invisible intent that dictates your vibration in the web of reality. If your intent is to be free, then the legal fiction and its chains cannot truly bind you. If your intent is rooted in fear, no amount of money or status will ever make you feel safe.
So the question for everyone listening is this. Are you operating as the legal fiction? Are you just answering to the name in all caps, reacting to the debt, seeking that external leash of approval?
Or are you the living man? Are you consciously broadcasting your own intent into the world? Are you the architect of your own truth?
Are you the debtor in the system? Or are you the creditor of your own life?
That is the ultimate question.
This has been a wild, wild ride through the archives of carnage, right? A journey from the courtroom to the cosmos and from the dictionary all the way down to the soul.
A deep dive into the architecture of control and the alchemy of freedom.
We really hope it sparked something for you. Maybe a question, maybe a moment of recognition, maybe just a new way to look at your driver's license.
Or the Wizard of Oz. You'll never see it the same way again.
Definitely not. As always, thank you for diving deep with us.
Until next time.